More than 1,300 delegates are up for grabs in total. By the end of these contests, nearly 40% of all pledged delegates in the Democratic primary will be decided, and more candidates may have to make the difficult decision about whether to stay in or to get out. Joining me to discuss are former Democratic Congressman Michael Capuano. Nice to see you. He's now a public affairs director at Foley Lardner LLP. Joanna Weiss is editor of Experience magazine at Northeastern University. Obviously, I just met you. I didn't know your first name. And unlike last night, when I failed at vetting, for which I apologize, neither has endorsed a candidate. Good to see you both. What a difference South Carolina makes. Let me just take one state, Virginia. This poll from Data for Progress, February 23rd, 25th, Sanders 9 points over Biden. Just a few days later, 15-point lead for Biden, 24-point switch. And by the way, only some of those people polled in the second one was after the South Carolina debate. When there's that much movement that late in a campaign, does it always reflect itself in the voting booth, or is it more feel than vote? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more feel. I mean, I think it's pretty well known that a lot of people have been looking at this for a long time and haven't really finally decided who they're going to vote for. A lot of people down to 2 or 3 people they were considering. The last couple of days, obviously, been a lot of movement.
So what do you say? I'm not clear what you're saying. Are you saying it may reflect a real voting shift?
It could, but I wouldn't hold my breath on it.
Would you? I mean, by the way, the national polls are not unlike this morning consult. Biden from 13 down to a virtual statistical dead heat, all around South Carolina, and maybe including a little bit of the endorsements last night.
Yeah, no, I think Sanders' support is very, very passionate, but I think it's limited. And I think everyone who was not Sanders has, as you said, been kind of weighing their options, trying to figure it out. And that consolidation, that super fast consolidation, where all of Klobuchar and all of Buttigieg's supporters seem to have decided on Biden.
Well, you don't know if they went. You know that their leaders,
their
leaders
did, but if you look at the polling, that's what it suggests is going to happen.
You know, let's talk about Bloomberg for a second, who was the talk of the town, talk of the nation until recently. John King from CNN was on the radio with us today and said, I would not be surprised if Bloomberg ended the night 0 for 18, meaning 0 in the first 4 because he didn't run, 0 tonight. Can he survive the fight another day if he wins nothing after spending $500 million?
Any other candidate could not. He can just go back to the bank in the morning and do it if he wants to. I don't think he's that stupid, and I don't care how little the money means to him. Nobody just walks away from $500 million with nothing to show from it. I don't care how much you have in the bank. All that being said, can he? Sure. Will he? I doubt it.
Do you doubt it?
I do. I doubt that he'll get out, honestly, because I think that he still has his own idea and his own theory. You know, he didn't listen to everybody who said don't get into the race, so why would you listen to people saying don't get out of the race? And he really, I think the money is fairly meaningless to him.
So I've been waiting to speak to a member of the Democratic establishment. You're finally here. Is that correct?
Sure.
Exactly.
Why not?
So is the Democratic establishment, this is the conventional wisdom, is upset with a Sanders I don't mean you personally. I mean, whatever the Democratic establishment allegedly is, we're going to lose all the down races, they say.
I will tell you that I've heard from a lot of members of Congress
former colleagues
and Democratic leaders around the country that are concerned about the down ballot impact. I can't tell you I share that because I live in Massachusetts. It's a little different. Whether it's right or wrong, I'm telling you the feeling is true.
But don't people really vote for that? I mean, if you have a Congress, you know the old line, I love my congressman, I hate the other 434. Don't they vote for the individual, not the person who's atop the ticket?
The answer is yes when you're in a safe blue district. But if you just won an election by 1,000 votes in the middle of rural Pennsylvania and you've got a guy at the top of the ticket saying they're going to get rid of fracking, you don't necessarily feel that way.
Well, he's I mean, you're talking about Conor Lamb, right?
But he's not the only one. I mean, I can tell you if you're in a heavily unionized district with working class union that says you're going to take their union negotiated health care away, you get a problem there too.
Didn't hurt him in Nevada. The hotel workers union, culinary union said don't vote for the guy.
I'm not so sure that would be true in some of the trades and maybe some of the other unions.
Are you nodding in agreement or disagreement? I can't tell.
I guess I'm nodding in agreement. I mean, I think that working class voters are looking for somebody who can represent, who. But Sanders, talk about working class voters, talks about working class voters
almost exclusively. I mean, there's barely a sentence that gets out of his mouth that is not talking about that. Yet you think that part of the Democratic Party may be uncomfortable with this guy?
I mean, I think it's about upsetting the apple cart. You know what I mean? What Sanders is talking about is less about I'm going to work for your lunch bucket issues and more about I'm going to upend the system and I'm going to change the system and I'm going to change the way healthcare works. And I'm not sure that the bulk of the Democratic electorate, the lunch bucket Democratic electorate, wants that
That's
level
the Obama
of change.
line. They don't want a revolution.
Yeah.
They want improvement. You know, let's talk about the hometown person. Why is Elizabeth Warren still in this race, would you suggest? Particularly since if she loses her home state, I don't know how much it hurts her in the long run, but it's rather embarrassing, I would say the least. Why is she still running?
Well, you know, she still has passionate support. And again, like Sanders' support, I think it's limited. I think she has not broken through to the working class. I think it's a well-educated, college-educated, kind of upper class of the Democratic Party support, but she sees it, she feels it, she hears it, and I don't think she feels ready to give that up, and she thinks that there is a path, a sort of third way path for her, for people who aren't so comfortable with Sanders, but don't feel like Biden's sort of either too old or the same old, and she sees a middle way.
How
for
much
herself.
damage to her if she loses this primary, her home state primary?
I think a lot.
You were in a race for the United States Senate, and you chose another route. You chose, Martha Coakley was running that race. You decided, I think in December of the prior year, enough, I'm not going to win this thing, pulling out. Was that just because it was a realistic assessment, or you were worried about how the people back home would feel if their
for me,
congressman...
it wasn't even that. For me, it was an inward thing. It was, do I want to go through what you have to go through to do these things? And I didn't want to do it.
Because you didn't see a path to victory, is that...
No, because I didn't want to raise money. I didn't want to be on the road as much as I did. I actually did see a path to victory, but I knew what I had to do to get on that path, and I personally wasn't committed to doing that.
If Elizabeth Warren loses today in her home state, will she be viewed differently by her constituents in Massachusetts?
I don't think that alone.
Just a bad week?
I don't think so. I mean, I think when everything's said and done, people might judge her depending on how she reacts to the whole thing. I don't think the loss in and of itself, there'll be a blip like anything. It's a minor blip. I mean, I think she's still well respected here. And like anything else, even if she's going to be unliked by a few more people, somebody has to run against her and beat her, and that's a whole different thing.
Last question about will the twain ever meet? I was talking to your former colleague, Congressman Lynch, today, and whether people love or hate his politics, I find he always gives you an honest answer.
He does.
And the question was, are the moderates ever going to accept the progressives? Are the progressives ever going to accept the moderates? And I assumed he'd say, of course, we'll unite to beat Trump. And his honest answer was, I worry about it a lot. I worry about the divide in this party. It's deep. It's heartfelt. Do you worry about the divide?
Very much so. Very much so. I think the party, if this election is all about the heart and soul of the Democratic Party, we've always had a liberal wing and a more conservative wing, but they've always been able to come together at the end of it, no matter who the nominee, even when George McGovern was the nominee. I'm not so sure that those days are going to continue. I hope they do. I think it's critical to be able to build that broad coalition. Otherwise, we will not win.
Just have a few seconds. Are Capuano and Lynch on or something?
I think it goes back to that idea of upending the system. And what Sanders is talking about, again, is not this sort of, it's not even not incremental change. It's taking those institutions and saying, I don't respect them. I don't believe this is the way to go, and I do think it's something different from just saying we're ideologically a little farther to the left.
Joanna, it's great to see you.
You too.
Congressman, great
Jim,
as always.
pleasure.
Mike Capuano.